Today, I'm going to share with you the techniques that I employ in the making of the plaster molds used for my large platters, or shields as I have come to call them. A demo showing the making of the clay platter itself upon the mold is shown in my video number 1 on my YouTube channel. Simply click on Limberlost Pottery below to get to my channel and to see my other videos. Starting off, here we have a 48-inch wooden frame lying upon 2 sawhorses. Stretched onto this frame is a fabric which is kind of denim-like. Not as thick as jeans denim, but perhaps more like the weight of denim which might be used to make a shirt. It is not a material that stretches more than just a bit. If it were to stretch much, the plaster poured into it would yield a deeper form than might be desired. If that's what you want, then a stretchy material is good. The question to ask yourself is, do I want a shallow platter form or deep? And choose the fabric that you use accordingly. This fabric is stapled to the wooden frame every few inches. There will be a lot of weight pulling down onto it when the liquid plaster is poured in, so you really need to secure it very well. Now, if we were to pour liquid plaster directly onto the fabric, it would flow into the fabric weave and would yield a surface with a fuzzy texture. That is not what I am after. So I have learned to get a smooth mold surface by laying a 1 mil sheet of plastic over the fabric. This kind of plastic can be found in the paint department of the hardware store, and it is used as a drop cloth. I don't attach the plastic because I want it to be able to move slightly when the plaster is poured into it. I use number 1 pottery plaster for my molds, found through my ceramics supplier in 100-pound bags. In this video, I'm pouring a mold of about 28 inches diameter, which will produce a finished and fired platter of about 25 inches. For this size of piece, I am mixing 40 pounds of plaster with 23 pounds of tap water. You will have to experiment with the water to plaster ratios to get optimum results, remembering that plaster mixed with too much water will be weak and will break easily. It is best to use as little water as possible while still making a mix that will flow from the mixing bucket and into the shape that you want. It also needs to be liquid enough to flow out flat on the bottom after pouring. Experimenting will achieve the results that you desire. I use a power drill with a mixing shaft, like those used to mix drywall mud, for example, or paint. After thoroughly mixing the plaster and water, pour the plaster from the bucket into the plastic on the wooden frame. I work quickly at this time as the plaster starts to set up immediately. Typically, there's about 10 minutes to work with. I pat the bottom underneath the fabric in order to encourage the plaster to flow out, as well as encourage any air bubbles to float to the surface and out of the plaster. When the pour is to my satisfaction, I then embed a bat, which has not yet been drilled, for the wheel head. I put a few screws into the embedded side of the bat to make sure it will not come out of the plaster easily. The holes are drilled later after the plaster is hardened. I centered the piece on the wheel head at that time, and the wheel head has had the bat pins removed so that I can reach underneath the wheel head with a short pencil and mark through the holes in the wheel head and onto the bat. The holes in the bat can then be drilled, which will allow it to attach to the pins which were reinstalled on the wheel head. This close-up shows the plastic stretching as the plaster is poured in. This stretching leaves a desirable set of lines radiating out from the center of the form and shows up on the surface of the mold. The clay piece made from this mold will have relief lines where those folds of stretched plastic were. The piece which starts off this video shows those lines well. This is something that when I discovered it, I was quite pleased about it. Here's an example of a mold where I've carved away plaster with woodworking tools and Dremel tools. This can be time-consuming, but yields very desirable effects in the form of relief in the surface of the clay piece coming off of the mold form.